Cooking oils. There's a huge selection of things that you can cook with, whether you're cooking in a stainless steel pan or a cast iron pan. What are you supposed to cook with? Whether you're cooking meat or you're cooking vegetables or you're cooking something else in a pan. I'm gonna go through all of that in this video and show you guys what I think are good cooking oils, what I think are bad cooking oils, and what I think are not so great cooking oils. And I think you're gonna be surprised because I bet you that a lot of the oils that you're cooking with or that you think are good are things that I am not gonna recommend. So first things first, let's start with your pan. Please cook in a stainless steel pan. Please do not use a non-stick pan for obvious reasons. The predominant one being Teflon, also known as PTFE, which can aerosolize when you heat the pan, can cause lung issues, irritating for people with asthma or not. If that PTFE flakes off, you're gonna end up eating it, could potentially be harmful and endocrine disrupting. So the pan that you're using is the first thing to think about. Use a stainless steel or a cast iron skillet. And if you're worried about it sticking to the stainless steel pan, there's something called the mercury ball effect. If you just get the pan hot enough so that you can throw some oil on the pan and it makes little balls of water that run around the pan, that kind of dance around the pan, you know the pan is hot enough. If you put oil on the pan when it's that hot, you won't have many problems with sticking, even on a stainless steel pan, which is about the cleanest thing you can cook on. Some people worry about cast iron because they're getting more iron in their food. I guess this depends on your baseline iron status. We've got seed oils on one end, things like canola or margarine, which is a lot of soybean oil. Got olive, avocado, coconut. We've got some tallow from Lineage, super proud of that. Then I've got some raw butter, which you could also make into ghee. So let's start with the seed oils. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of seed oils. This is something you should never even have in your home. I feel bad even having it in my kitchen. I use it as a prop, but seed oils are a horrible thing to cook with. They have tons of polyunsaturated fats, which are fats that have multiple double bonds. This makes the fats very susceptible to oxidation when you heat them. I don't even think you should use them as a salad dressing if you don't heat them because they've been heated, refined, bleached, and deodorized even before they come to you, and they're sitting in this plastic bottle on the shelf of the grocery store for God knows how long. I believe that seed oils, because of this heavy industrial processing, are basically toxic for humans from the moment they end up on a grocery shelf and have no place in the human diet. Humans have never consumed seed oils without consuming seeds or nuts in our history until the last 110 years. This is a very recent addition to the human diet, and though correlation is not causation, there is a massive decline in our health over the last 110 years since things like this and ultra-processed foods, which often contain them, were introduced into our diets. Previous to that, they were used as engine lubricants. And in World War II, canola oil had a great role lubricating parts on ships because canola oil apparently stays slippery even when it's wet. Shout out to Bon Jovi. So these are great engine lubricants. If you need something oiled in your house, canola oil, maybe a little margarine, that's fantastic. They're not food for humans. They've never been food for us. I've done tons of videos on the science of seed oils, the randomized controlled trials, showing seed oils are harmful, evidence showing that when you consume seed oils, whether it's soybean oil or other seed oils, increased oxidation of LDL happens. That's a lipoprotein particle in your blood, also known as the quote-unquote bad cholesterol. That's a whole separate story. Regardless, oxidized LDL increases along with a marker of cardiac risk known as Lp(a) when you consume seed oils. So all of those things taken together, along with the fact that humans have never consumed these, I think we can just say, using a little common sense and intuition, these are a horrible thing to be eating in your diet, whether you're heating them or not. If you're curious about lipoproteins, LDL, and cholesterol, I'll put links in the description regarding those things as well. Before I move on from seed oils to olive and avocado oil, I want to talk about smoke point versus peroxidation index. A lot of people think that smoke point of an oil is an indication of the oil's damage, and if it's a higher smoke point, it's okay to cook with it. This is false. This is pretty much false. What you care about when you're cooking with an oil is the peroxidation index, the likelihood, the propensity of that oil to oxidize, to become rancid and damaged. And oils that contain more polyunsaturated fats, like linoleic acid present in these seed oils, or even omega-3 polyunsaturated fats like alpha-linolenic acid, which are even more unsaturated than linoleic acid, those fats are very unstable. When you heat those fats, like in soybean oil with a significant amount of linoleic acid, but also alpha-linolenic acid, those are going to oxidize, become rancid, damaged, and form lipid peroxides very quickly. So smoke point is not an indication of how safe it is to cook with an oil from an oxidation standpoint. What you are looking for is the peroxidation index of an oil. Actually have these kind of lined up in that order anyway, and I'll show you these as we go through, but the more saturated an oil is, the lower the peroxidation index of that oil is going to be, and the safer it is going to be to cook with. So that smoke point is a misleading term. Don't use that. Think about the peroxidation index of your oil. So having said that, let's talk about olive and then avocado oils. Up until the 1990s, olive oil wasn't really a thing in American households, but it's a big deal now. And it's a decent oil. It's much better than seed oils. Olive oil has a place on your salad, potentially. If you're of the persuasion of eating salads, olive oil might be great for that, with a few caveats. That is ideally organic, cold pressed, housed in glass that is opaque, and single source. Majority of olive oils, when studies are done, are cut with seed oils because this is big business. And it's much cheaper to make an olive oil if you put in some sneaky soybean oil into that olive oil. If you have a single source olive oil that is organic, cold pressed, in opaque glass, it is much less likely that it is going to be cut with a vegetable oil. So know the quality of your olive oil. The other thing to consider about olive oil is that olive oil is about 10 to 15, sometimes even 20% linoleic acid. That is an omega-6, 18-carbon, polyunsaturated fatty acid that will oxidize when you cook it. So the peroxidation index of olive oil is lower than seed oils, but it's much higher than more saturated fats like coconut, tallow, butter, or ghee. So I do not think that olive oil is a healthy fat to cook with because you're going to break the oil. You're going to damage the oil. And I know this is surprising you guys, but knowledge is power. Know better, do better. Do not cook with olive oil, guys. There are much better oils to cook with. The same is basically true for avocado oil. This is a more recent addition to our palates in the United States, particularly. Only since the late 1990s, early 2000s has this even been a thing. And just like olive oil, a lot of avocado oil is similarly cut with seed oils. Avocado oil has a significant amount of ALA, that's that omega-3 fatty acid that you don't want to heat, alpha-linolenic acid. You have an oil that's, again, not great for cooking. You are going to oxidize the oil. It is going to become partially rancid when you heat olive and avocado. Both of these may be okay on your salad. Again, if you're of the persuasion of salads, in the lining of cans for olive oil and avocado oil, there is plastic, and that plastic contains endocrine disrupting chemicals. These endocrine disrupting chemicals are lipophilic. They associate with lipids, and oils are lipids. Olive, avocado, not for cooking. I know, see, right? I told you you'd learn something. What do I think you should cook with? The more saturated fats. Saturated fat has gotten a bad rap for so long, guys, but if you really look at the medical research, it's a totally healthy fat for humans. At worst, it's neutral from a cardiovascular perspective, and I would argue that there are many studies suggesting that saturated fats are healthy for humans, especially the 18-carbon saturated fat stearic acid or the odd-chain fatty acids, which are 15 and 17 carbons in length, pentadecanoic acid and heptadecanoic acid. These odd-chain fatty acids, found primarily in dairy fats like this butter or ghee, these are consistently and strongly associated with improved health outcomes in humans. Not a lot of plant-based people are telling you about that. So when it comes to these saturated fats, which will generally be solid at room temperature unless you're living in the desert under 100-degree heat, you have coconut and you have butter. It will come as no surprise to you that tallow and butter are my favorite fats. I do favor the animal fats over the plant fats. I'm super proud of what we've built at Lineage Provisions. We've got the meat sticks, we've got our all-in-one protein powder, and now we've got clearly the best grass-fed tallow in the world. I mean, you can just see the color of that tallow is incredible. It's the most orange, yellow tallow I've ever seen, suggesting that the cows are eating lots of good nutrient-rich grass. You guys are gonna love this tallow. The texture is incredibly smooth as well. So Lineage tallow, huge fan of that. You can also use butter or coconut oil. Why do I prefer the animal fats over the plant fats? Animal fats are just gonna have more of the fat-soluble vitamins because the cows are eating grass. This is vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin D, and vitamin K, including vitamin K2, which has been consistently associated with better cardiovascular outcomes in humans. So animal fats are a health food. They contain nutrients that are vital for humans, stearic acid, odd-chain fatty acids, fat-soluble vitamins in these fats, and these are much more stable. So this has a lower peroxidation index than olive and avocado, and a much lower peroxidation index than a seed oil. No big surprise there. In case you guys don't know what tallow is, this is rendered beef fat. So you make tallow by collecting fat from an animal, either from around the kidneys, which is called the perinephric fat or the suet, or the trim fat on cuts of steak throughout the animal. And you take those cuts of fat and you heat them gently, rendering the fat so the fat goes from solid to liquid, then it recongeals when you cool it. And then churning and churning and churning, and you end up with butter. Most butter is from pasteurized milk, which is going to be heated. If you can find butter from milk that hasn't been heated, you will end up with something called a raw butter, which I think is the best form of butter that you're gonna find. But if you can't find raw butter, look for something that's organic and grass-fed, and I think that'll be your best option. Coconut oil is another good cooking fat. Again, I don't use it because I feel like the animal fats are gonna have more of those fat-soluble vitamins in them, and I would prefer to get these. If you want to use coconut oil, it's going to be much better than olive, avocado, or seed oils for cooking, but coconut oil doesn't have much of that stearic acid in it. Stearic acid is that 18-carbon saturated fat that has been associated with leanness in animal models consistently, and in humans has been shown to positively affect mitochondrial fat metabolism. So there are fascinating studies in humans with stearic acid. Tallow and butter are your best sources of that, and stearic acid is also found in cacao butter, not coconut butter, but cacao butter. I don't have any of that. I guess you could cook with cacao butter if you wanted to, but it's pretty sticky and I don't think it would make a good cooking fat. So in summary, you've got a range of cooking oils. Most of us grew up cooking with canola oil or margarine. Those are things that I used cooking when I was growing up and were probably used in my household, even those doctors. No one told us they increased oxidized LDL and the LP(a). Maybe you're cooking with avocado or olive oil. Not great options because they will become rancid and oxidized when you're cooking with them. And a lot of these are cut with vegetable oils, so be careful. Coconut oil, butter, tallow, ghee. These are my favorite cooking oils. Remember to use a stainless steel pan or a cast iron pan. Do not use nonstick. I hope all of that helps you guys make decisions in terms of what fats to use when you're cooking. And again, if you have questions about seed oils, if you have questions about lipids or cholesterol, cardiovascular risk, I'll put some links below.